for our 9th episode of Titans of Today. We have the founders of Qualetics, Sumanth Vakada and Mike Fowler. Sumanth and Mike, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having us, Jacob.
Thank you, Jacob.
Absolutely. Just to give everyone a good insight of who you guys are, what Qualetics is, you've created a software that helps make other softwares intelligent. How did you come to discover the opportunity for your product, and what are you doing exactly?
I'll take that, Jacob. So Mike and I come from a SaaS background. We worked in software companies for the last, in my case, it's 25 years. Mike has been with software companies longer than that. And we built and sold software applications for different customers. My role specifically was building software applications. So I was on the technology side and working in different domains, different companies. The one trend that I saw constantly was that it was getting more and more complex developing software, and the data aspect of software, whether it is data consumption, data usage, data production, or using data to improve software was increasing over and over. The usage of it was increasing. But businesses did not have a very consistent and repeatable process that could be used in the software development lifecycle. So every company that I worked for, every product that I built, we had to build a framework that would make software intelligent, being able to consume different data points, being able to use those data points in the software as it's being used. There wasn't a system that was already built or in the market that software teams could use to just plug into their software and then start using it. So we had to build that from scratch in every single company that I worked for, every product that I built. So that was the primary thought process behind building this product, where the idea is that we want to help other software companies, other companies that are building products, to better leverage data in building their products, whether it is improving their software quality or improving their user experience or improving their product adoption. Data plays a key role there. And software teams do not have the time or the skill set or the resources to do it all themselves. And that's where we come in, where we would like to provide this platform that plugs into any software and then helps that software team in improving their overall quality of their product from different angles. So that's the primary thought process behind our product.
Fantastic. And Mike, anything to add to that?
Now, it's just also a reflection of what we see as this new reality around the hot topic of AI. There's so many companies that are rushing to do things with AI, and almost without exception, they struggle to really deploy them well and wring all of the promise out of their AI efforts as they can. And so our focus here is to utilize our expertise to systematize how AI algorithms can be deployed, either to serve companies in sharing insightful information around the organization, or to add value to their products.
Right on. So as a question that comes up, let's say I'm your ideal customer. I own a software company, or I own an app. What's presently going through my mind when I'm looking at my customer experience versus what I could be experiencing if I was using Qualetics?
What usually comes to mind in most companies is you start looking at what are the sources of information about what my customer experience is like. And so you start to think in terms of what's in my customer service logs? What are customers complaining about? What do I know about customer feedback, either from surveys or from my sales team and what they're hearing about? All of those sources of information about your customer experience cause you to be reactive. You're reacting only to what the customers have taken the time to share with you. What we wanted to do was to instead make some iterative improvement to improve how surveys could be collected or improve how you can capture more in your customer service queue. Go around all of that traditional reactionary processes, leverage AI and analytics to make your products intelligent so that they're reporting all of your customer interaction to you, and elevate through our AI and analytics capabilities, elevate the things that deserve immediate attention.
Powerful stuff. And I'm sure that each of you, as this is a question here, have you started to adopt a more proactive approach in your life, like outside of business, after really coming to this awareness, or what was that journey like for each of you in particular?
So it's interesting because the desire to do things proactively is what led us down this path of building this product. So to give you an example, about 10 years ago, I was building an application just as a side project while I was still working. in a company. I was building this side project, which was basically like a social publishing platform, the opposite of Twitter. If Twitter was everything about publishing short content, my app was the opposite, where you could post and publish articles that other people could interact with. So I did it on the nights and weekends, and I built it all myself. But it left me with burning questions about how is my app being used by users? What's happening? How can I be more proactive in making that successful? So all of those thoughts, it came to me, and then I was just a one-man shop, and it wasn't possible for me to take care of all those things. And then that's what led me to, I eventually shut down that project, but that thought stayed with me. And I took that learning experience with every job that I went to. From that point on, every job that I went to, I used to think of what can we do proactively? What can we do to improve the quality of the work that we're doing? How can we use data in our day-to-day activities, predominantly on the work front? And eventually, at some point, these things materialized and framed into this concept of what we are working on right now. I spent a lot of time thinking about how we could use information, data, and intelligence that is beyond ourselves to improve the quality of work we do, or the quality of life that we experience. So that's my experience.
And I'll share a much more pragmatic experience. I'll take as an example. First of all, let me start as context. We're talking about AI here, so artificial intelligence. And as we look at artificial intelligence, it's how do we apply the human process of applying logic to a task and make it easier to do that better. Last night, I was putting my first set of fertilizer on my lawn. And if anybody does fertilizer on their lawn, they know that depending on where you live, you're going to put multiple applications down, and you do it based on the weather. And I then had to predict, if I put my first set on now, when will I need to do my second set and my third set? Applying human logic to that, I looked at where we were on the continental map of the US, what weather patterns were, and I wrote down with my Sharpie on the package, this is the next date I got to do this, and this is the date after that I got to do this. And so I have my notification system on my fertilizer bag, and I know to go back to that at different points this summer and fall to get it all done. Now, I use that as an example because those are the kinds of things that we try to apply in our programs. There is a logical sequence that needs to be replicated time and time again. And we want to set up in our AI platform the mechanisms to automate those notifications to allow you to address those business needs in exactly the same way. And the really nice thing for me is that Sumanth and I have worked together for about 9 years now, and I've always focused on the customer relationship side of the business. So when I've gotten insights from customers, I went back to Sumanth, who focuses on leading the technology side of the business. And because we think in a very parallel manner, we're always trying to figure out how to take what we've learned from the customer and systematize it in a platform. And all of those things, that whole exchange that we have on a daily basis is exactly what goes into our thinking as we deploy our AI platform and refine those capabilities.
That's really great. And so you guys have recently made the transition from a service-oriented business to a more SaaS-based model now with launching of Qualetics. And Mike, you've talked about perhaps individuals, and Samantha even touched on a little bit. If you're overwhelmed and you're in a reactive state, maybe you're a one-man shop or what have you, you're on a treadmill of, all right, I'm moving, but moving and progress are different. Movement and progress are different. Other service-based businesses, let's say like development shops or otherwise, what was the journey to realizing, hey, we need to create a SaaS product. We need to do everything we're doing to create a SaaS product so that we can get off that treadmill and start achieving more tangible results in a happier way?
I'll start here. You're right. When we were starting that journey of creating a SaaS product specific to facilitating AI initiatives being more successful, whenever you start a company with an idea in mind, by default, when you start to develop it and refine it, all companies initially are doing bespoke work because you're starting from scratch to build something. And all of our initial customer engagements allowed us to continue the process of completing and refining our platform. And then within the platform, we drop into it our AI algorithms, which we sometimes call data machines, We drop our data machines into the platform and they just start running on the data that's ingested into them. That process of working with our initial customers very much in bespoke fashion, given Sumanth and I an incredible appreciation for all the software development shops out there who are constantly having to develop new code for customers and do it so well and so effectively that they can be profitable at it. Our focus is on replicating a SaaS solution, productizing that process. But if you're going to be working with multiple customers to develop new software, you have to find a way to commercialize the level of service you're providing. And so we're really excited because of what we've learned in our own sort of bespoke processes. We're really excited about how our software quality analytics solution can be used by software development shops to plug into their software that they're making for customers. By plugging in the Qualetics experience, they're automatically creating AI-enabled intelligent software. And then when they hand that to the customers, they can say, for this small service engagement on a monthly basis, we will monitor the utilization and performance of this software and report to you when there may be changes in browsers, operating systems, or whatever that require an upgrade or an enhancement to that program so that you don't have to worry about it. We'll pay attention to that for you. And so as a software development shop, you're adding so much more value to not just giving them code, but giving them AI-enabled intelligent code, which you can monitor for them. And it constantly keeps you connected to them because you can give them updates when a new scope of work might be appropriate to do an enhancement or an update based on some of the user flow or user behavior issues you're able to identify. So we've really enjoyed the experience of transitioning from the bespoke work we've done to the SaaS related replicable work we do and how it can help all of those bespoke shops out there.
Yeah, that's very true. Many small companies actually, when they start building out a product, they follow the agile approach, and we did the same too. And in that process, as you start taking on customers, you start building features that individual customers want. And in our case, it was AI-related use cases that each different customer wanted. That was taking us down that service type of business where we were developing solutions for customers while deviating from the path of building a productized version of AI. And then AI is also there's another complex aspect of AI where every company is trying to use AI and implement AI-based solutions, but there is so much complexity out there. There are so many use cases out there that narrowing down to a specific use case that works for every company is always a challenge. So in the end, we were just implementing AI solutions for individual companies, and each company had a different solution. Now, along that path, we also realized that the process of ingesting data, standardizing data, and analyzing data also has to be optimized and modernized. So the thought process went, if the systems that are processing data for AI are going through an evolution of maturity, then maybe we should look at how do we improve software itself. So in a sense, you're using software to develop AI. What if we use AI to improve software? And that was the thought process that took us to building this product, where instead of just using software to develop AI modules, we are now using AI that learns a software solution and then tells the software owners, how do you make it better? What are the gaps that AI sees? And then we are on a path to improve software and at the same time, standardize the process of data collection that can help build better AI solutions. So that was the whole thought process behind this productized version.
Got it. So what's the case? Let's say I'm on the treadmill. How do you get me excited to get off the treadmill? What is that one thing that I'm going to experience that's, hey, it's that critical mindset shift. What is someone going to experience? That one specific thing, maybe you can narrow it down to that, where it's like, hey, now you're just, how do you change someone's mind? Because it's easy to get me to understand the solution and maybe have people listening. How do you get me excited to really change my mind?
If you're running a software company and you're building a SaaS product, we suggest that with our experience, we suggest that there are three key aspects that you should always be aware of. What the thing is, you should know what your software is doing. You should know how your users or customers are using your software. And you should also know whether it is achieving its goals or not. And these are all very data-driven points that every business owner, every product owner, or every software development team member should be aware of. If the answer to any of these questions is I don't know, or I have to look, then it is time that you need to use our product. Because these cannot be decisions or data points that you should be guessing or you should be unaware of. These should be things that as a product owner, as a software business owner or a technology owner, you should always have at your hands so that you can basically have a peaceful night of sleep, knowing that your software is doing what it's supposed to do and your users are having the best experience possible while using your product. So if that is your ultimate goal, then our software is the best candidate for that.
I think all business leaders these days understand that it's best not to make business decisions based on anecdotal information. Unfortunately, when people are trying to understand the way their customer experience operates, all they've typically used is anecdotal information. Which customer has shouted loudest about their problem? Or of maybe the 100 people that had a problem, what 5 or 10 people actually reported it to customer service? And so you're making a guess as to what do we need to focus on at any point, because you don't have a rich set of data to go on. But the good news is that, as Sumanth said, these are all very data-driven experiences that can be captured, analyzed, and insights delivered. And that's what we've developed with our software quality analytics solution.
And then teams being pulled more together because they know where to focus, what to focus on to drive those next results.
Oh, you're absolutely right. In order to improve the experience, when you look at the people involved, typically there's people on the customer service side. Then you have someone in the programming shop who needs to understand what's going on. In mature organizations, you'll have product management staff who are really focused on trying to understand and connect the solution to the market need. And then you have salespeople who want to be able to understand what's going on with their customers and be as proactive as possible in managing their interaction with the company. Now, aligning all of those various people on the same set of insights and information is incredibly valuable and rarely occurs in contemporary business.
Awesome.
Every team member, every department that Mike mentioned, sales, customer service, technology, product, pretty much use their own set of tools to keep track of their line of business. So when it comes to like sitting on a round table where you need to discuss, what's going on with your customer, with your product, everybody's looking at their own data. So you have silos of data that each person is looking at, and it's an uphill battle for companies to pool all that information together so that they can get one consistent line of thought. So what our platform does is it allows people to sit on the same round table centered around the customer, where everybody's looking at the same data, but looking at their version of it or their slice of it, so that customer service knows how the product is affecting the customer service, how the sales is affecting the product usage. So there is what we call it data democracy, so that we are enabling the entire organization to look at the same data and understand it from their angle of view so that they can all come together and work, improve the customer's experience, basically.
Today's businesses focus a lot on KPIs. But as Sumanth said, one department's KPIs oftentimes don't seem to have any real relationship to another department's KPIs. But with the kind of data that we're capturing on customer engagement, user behavior, and how it works within your customer experience, it allows the KPIs of the sales team to be logically connected to the KPIs of customer service, of IT, and of product management.
It's talking about pulling teams together. You mentioned you have a 9-year work experience together. How did you guys come together? What's your origin story as a group working together?
Have those experiences where you have the traditional friction between sales and IT, where the thing that drives the initial interaction is sales saying, I got a customer who's pretty ticked off. and so we go to IT and we say, IT, you guys got to straighten this out. Sumanth and I like to consider us mature enough to where we didn't come to blows over it, but we said, okay, we both have a problem here. How are we going to solve this better? And Sumanth, what I always appreciated about Sumanth was his systemic focus on every one of these conversations, wanting to understand what's the root cause of it with this customer. And if it's affecting that customer that way, is it affecting all other customers the same way or slightly different ways. And by understanding the root cause of the problem, Sumanth was always searching for a way to affect whatever platform that we were using to manage the experience through. And it's that discipline that, as I said, Sumanth and I we tend to think in a very aligned fashion. And so it's that discipline that caused me to get excited when he was talking about his idea for what Qualetics was, and taking that platform-oriented systemic approach to how to solve AI deployment issues.
And my experience is that, as you can probably tell from this interaction, I tend to think in a very structured, technical, linear fashion. And what I really appreciate working with Mike, or having worked with Mike for so long, is his ability to put perspective onto things. I would say we would do X, Y, and Z, and then we would get here. And then Mike would say, there's this angle that you need to consider and the other angle that you need to consider. And he, with his broad experience, he would make me see things that I would completely miss otherwise. If it was just me, I would just completely miss it in my programmatic way of thinking. And I think that way, Mike's experience and ability complements my line of thinking so well that it just made sense for us to work together as a team, where I could focus on the technology and Mike could focus on the business and the customer relationships.
I'll tell a fertilizer story when Sumanth is laying out the technical explanation.
Exactly. Yep. So to go a little deeper on that, and one thing you said earlier, Mike, was the parallel thinking, which I think is, as is studied in the data, companies are more successful when they do have, and because you worded it so eloquently, parallel thinking, where you have someone who can focus on the technical side, but someone who can focus on the customer side as well. So what are the principles that you guys use to get the most out of your dynamic?
We're always looking for, being a smaller company, we're always looking for ways to be more facile and to leverage technology as best we can to maintain a constant alignment. Sumanth does a great job of understanding what technical tools are out there to properly communicate across our organization. And we're reminded every day as we work with our customers that there are a lot of businesses that operate as what we'll call data autocracies. They work within data silos. And especially as organizations are more mature, those silos can get pretty rigid, with different people wanting to manage their own data, sometimes not be very ready to share it or release control of it to other parts of the organization. We enjoy doing everything we can to knock those silos down. And we talk about taking organizations from the data autocracies they classically operate into data democracies. And we, as just a matter of course on our daily work, we are sharing information across the board between Sumanth and I and our developers and our support people and the entire staff. It's just I think it's just a way of doing business. We tend to operate that way even with customers now they think about it, don't we, Sumanth? We invite our customers inside the tent, so to speak, to understand the details, and we hope that they do the same with us.
On the note about looking in the tent, I really want to get deeper on the technical side, Sumanth, here, of the thinking processes while you're creating the software. So what was really going on when you started to visualize the different avenues? Even you could, like I said, be technical as you started to see data here being generated that was dropped here, or what were those areas, if we could really start to understand, where am I losing value?
I've read factoids recently that a human on average generates about 2 GB of data through their daily usage. And it goes up all the way to different entities, factory that generates petabytes of data. So entities today, like whether it is people or businesses, are generating huge volumes of data. And these data points are about coming from customers, they're coming from different services that are providing, different operations that are running in the business. So the bigger the business, the more data that's flowing through. The challenge is that all this data is flowing into different silos, as we mentioned before, and they're not connected with each other. One of the principles, like in one of my recent talks, we talked about what are the key things that businesses need to be doing. The first and fundamental important thing is to be able to build a data fabric, which means that whether it is data about your customer, whether data about your product, or whether it is data about your internal operations, they're all connected into your business. Everything has a dependency on the other, one way or the other, either directly or indirectly. By having these silos of data and by losing the context in which this data is being generated, it becomes extremely challenging if you want to go back, let's say 1 week later, 1 month later, and want to look at that data. It's going to be very difficult for you to understand where that data point came from, what was the source for it, what was the cause for it, and what did it impact. So the main thing that we do as a platform is we focus on making data collection as close to the source as possible, no matter what the system is. It could be your CRM system, it could be your web application, it could be your software application that's running on the cloud. The way our platform works is we provide you with the API that enables you to plug it into your application or system at the point where the data is being generated. So if it's a customer order, then we provide the ability to collect the data at that specific instance so that you can capture the context in which that order happened, whether they came through a promotion, whether they came through a referral, whatever the context is. Capture that context and that data point. And then that's how that data is saved in our system. And that allows us to attach different aspects of that event that occurred, which allowed us to collect that data, so that when you look at that data 2 months down the line, 1 year down the line, exactly what caused that event and what kind of data was captured at that event. And we do this with every single event that happens in your systems. And that's what systems are today. When you look at any kind of software system, they're nothing but a sequence of events that are happening either asynchronously or synchronously. And by collecting data in a flat manner, once it's stored in a database, you're losing the context of all those events that are happening in your system. And that's what we focus on. We focus on providing a platform or a framework that allows you to capture those data points as the events occur, so that at the end of the day, when you look at all the data that was collected, you're able to basically create a data fabric that has a meaning, that has a context to each data point, each event. And then you're able to say, okay, customer A bought this product at this point. They came through a referral channel that was a part of a marketing campaign that somebody else created. And you can link those events. You can basically build a knowledge graph that powers your entire business. And that's at the core, that's what we are trying to do. We're trying to provide a much more optimized way of collecting data and collecting data at the source where these events are occurring. So I think that's the fundamental thought process behind the platform.
When we've talked about it internally, we will think about a single user's interaction on a website as though it's a thread. And it's not just one event, but it's how that event proceeds down that thread from beginning to end. And if you layer in every user's flow, every user sequence of events, what you start to see is a fabric of user activity. And so what we're really trying to create with the insights we deliver to our customers is a sense of the tapestry that's created from their user experience.
That's truly amazing. And now you can start to understand the visualizations and really see how that's all coming together. I found one of the most important concepts in my life over the past few months has been contextualization. When you can really contextualize something properly, the answer becomes much more simple, or you understand what question to ask. So
imagine it, from a product management perspective, it's nice to be able to see that holistic view. From a customer service perspective, it's great to be able to deconstruct that to get down to that one user flow, so you can reach out to that user and say, I see you did this. That's where the problem occurred. If you do it this way, you'll be all set.
So it's a top and bottom to top. You can see both.
Yep. Be able to step back and see the big picture, but zero in and follow that thread so you can help that user Mike who might have hit the wrong thing at the wrong time.
Yeah, and that's the main thing that we observed in traditional systems. If you take data lakes, data warehouses, and databases have been around for a very long time, and they are transactional systems. They help you capture a certain transaction at a certain point. And at the end of the day, provide a very flat view of the data. It's almost like when you're playing a video game, you hit basically a wall and you want to look like what's on that other side of that wall, right? It's almost like that. So that's the experience that you get with many of the databases, where you have this data, but you don't know the context behind that data, unless you are tracking every single point of that, which is almost an afterthought. So by not relying on databases or source databases, and by creating a platform that can capture the data as each event occurs, we just freed ourselves from the limitations of a traditional database. We are now able to capture data, whether it's 5 attributes or 100 attributes, we can collect it because we are at that particular moment. We are able to capture that data at that moment. And that gives us that flexibility and almost the power to go back to any point of time. It's almost like time travel. You can go back there and then analyze that event as if you were there at that particular point of time.
So what are the strategies and habits that you each have in your personal life that help you to get insights? I'm sure you've all had, and anybody listening to this has been in the moment where they're working on a business problem or trying to capitalize on an opportunity and they just get stuck. And then maybe they go on for me, I'll go on a drive and I'll just, as soon as I get in the car, wheels are moving, boom, the insight comes. So what are some habits that you guys have that to help you generate more insights and think more clearly?
In my experience, I think I've developed this over the last few years. Is instead of, I never understood the word, as I was growing up, I never understood the term living in the moment that well. But then over the years, as we take on more responsibilities and more work, as you tend to stress yourself with more and more things, you tend to lose sight of the actual problem that you're trying to solve. And then there are too many things happening at the same time, and it clutters your mind and you're not able to get to the solution. So something that I've been practicing and I'm trying to get better at it is like trying to focus on that particular problem or particular issue at that particular point of time and then leave out everything. So it's like in programming, we have this concept of single responsibility where you try to solve one problem at a time. If you're writing a function, that function is supposed to do one thing. And then you do that to the best of your ability. One of the things that I try to do is when I'm looking at a problem or when I'm looking at something that needs to be solved, I focus on that. I try to filter out all the noise around me as much as possible. And if at a certain point I'm not able to solve it, then I leave it. I leave the problem where I sleep on it or I do something else completely. I don't take that with me when I'm trying to do something else. So I leave that there. And when I come back to it, I'm coming back to it with a fresh perspective. Maybe I've learned something from somewhere else. And then that helps me solve the problem. Actually, when we were trying to come up with a name for the company, we knew we wanted to call it Qualetics. But I wanted to also make it sound unique. And then I struggled for that name for a very long time. And then at some point I said, okay, let's leave it where it is. And then I went to an AWS summit where they were talking about machine learning. And they were talking about all these cool AI concepts. And I was thinking about it. I thought, this is cool. These guys are building machines that process data. And I thought like data machines, that's such a cool term. And why not just use that name? And so I wasn't even thinking about the name of the company at that point of time. But I was just focusing on what was being presented in that seminar at that point of time. This name came to me automatically. That's the thing, like, just focus on one problem at a time or one thing at a time, and then you tend to do much better than trying to solve multiple things at the same time.
And I would say, just building on something that Sumanth said, that in our work with AI, I've come to really appreciate how really, if the basis of anything that you do with AI technology is how does human learning work, then you're probably going down the right path. And you can apply some logical framework as a data machine, as Sumanth said, and you just take in a new batch of information and process it with that logical framework. That's the fuel. So the data being the fuel, the data machine is the logic. And from a personal perspective, I read a quote once when I was a teenager and I was trying to understand, how can I get along better in this world? This quote was, I know that I know nothing. Plato and Socrates were Greek philosophers, and Plato attributes that quote to Socrates. And I thought, I will probably speak less and listen more if I just live by that awareness that I know nothing, that I'm probably not a well of original thinking. But as long as I'm willing enough to listen to other people, I'll probably get a little further in this world. And I've come to benefit from learning so much, from learning a lot from the people around me. And I try not to speak too much. And sometimes I don't do that as well as I should.
So how do you measure success in your lives then, on that note?
Success by looking at how peacefully I'm sleeping at night every day. If I'm having a peaceful night of sleep, that means that I'm doing something right. I'm not worrying too much. I'm able to spend time with my kids. I'm able to spend time with my family. And then I wake up each day with a fresh energy to go and do something that I love doing. There was a point of time where I was having really stressful nights and I was waking up each day with a dread or a fear of what am I going to face today. So as long as I don't have that kind of feeling, as long as I'm able to carry on every day with renewed sense of enthusiasm for the work that I'm doing, or the sense of satisfaction as I'm spending time with my family, I think that is success.
Yeah, and I think I have a similar barometer of success. I try to measure it on a daily or 2 or 3 times a day basis. And I'll think, have the interactions that I've had with people been generally positive? And if the people that I've interacted with have benefited from it, great, I'm doing a great job. I just need to keep it up. If I get to the end of the day and the things that bother me tend to be, if some interaction I had that day was either confused or frustrated, that's what tends to play on my mind.
So you measure success by the strength of those positive experiences.
Making every interaction a positive interaction with everybody that I interact with.
Great stuff. So what is your call to action for people who want to learn more about Qualetics or how they can utilize your software and work with you both?
I think we want to solve a problem for businesses. I would say that if you're a software company, or if you're a software leader or a product owner, and you're looking to improve your product or improve your customer experience or improve your business, or just be ready for the fourth industrial revolution, as they call it, where data is going to be playing a huge role, then we would love to work with you as a partner. We would love to help you have success on that journey. We would love to help you grow your business, make your customers more happy, improve your software, all with the power of data and AI. If you have that inclination and if you have that desire, then we would love to be your partners and do everything possible to help you get that success.
Sumanth, for his professionalism and diplomacy, surprised me one time when we were talking about how might we change some of the things we communicate on our website. And Sumanth said, maybe we just ask, maybe it just comes down to this rhetorical question that we just put on the website and we say, does your software suck? I started laughing because it surprised me. It surprised me hearing that come out of Sumanth's mouth. But it fundamentally comes down to that. If you have any concern about whether your software really hits the mark, then we have something, we'd love to partner with you, because we love the idea that any customer we work with, we can make their engagement with their customers better. And we like the idea of being a catalyst that can benefit anybody out there creating a digital customer experience. And these days, virtually every company, even a manufacturing-based company, is going to have some digital interface that their customers will use. And the fact that we can play a role behind the scenes to elevate every company's customer experience, that's really motivating for us. And we'd love to help any companies that are genuinely interested in trying to do a better job of that.
Really great. Couldn't say it any better there. So anybody looking to engage with these folks, do exactly what they just said. We'll include some links in the description, or wherever you're viewing this, there'll be a button of some sort. So thank you both for being on Titans Up today.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jacob.
Hey everyone, thank you for watching this episode of Titans Up today. What did you learn from it? Make sure to drop a comment below with your most valuable insight so that other people can engage in the conversation around what this speaker brought to the table. And then on another front, make sure to subscribe so that every time we drop a new episode, you will be notified. And that way you can keep fueling your dreams and your brain with fresh insights, which can help you along your journey and along your path to your goals. So thank you so much again, and I look forward to seeing you in the next interview.